Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the You, Me, and BTC podcast. Glad to have you back on another Thursday or whenever you may be listening. We are recording on a Wednesday, if that matters to you, November 9th. I am Daniel Brown, and I'm here with
Tim Baker.
And we have another exciting guest with us today. He's been with us a few times, probably 2, maybe 3, to talk about Purse.io. And we promised you a couple weeks ago that we would reach out to him and see if we could have him back to chat about his new product, BCoin. It's a JavaScript library for Bitcoin. We briefly mentioned it, like I said, a few weeks ago, but we want to go more in depth. So we are here with Andrew Lee, the CEO of Purse.io. Thanks for joining us again, Andrew.
Pleasure to be on.
So I think the easiest place to start, like we normally do, is just tell us what you're working on. And in this case, that's BCoin. What is BCoin?
Yeah, so if we step back a little bit, our mission at Purse is to make Bitcoin useful, right? So for the past 2 years, we've been working on the Purse marketplace, which strives to have the best value proposition for anybody looking to spend Bitcoin. It's cheaper than shopping on Amazon. It's cheapest around, and I know you guys use it
all the time.
Yeah, so our latest initiative is called BCoin. And BCoin is really our foray into the infrastructure of Bitcoin. And I can kind of explain before exactly what it is, the thought process for, kind of how we got there.
Absolutely, go for it.
Yeah. So, in our pursuit of our mission to make Bitcoin useful, we started at the very top, like application layer, right? So, Purse, as you guys know, is a consumer marketplace. Our end users are people like, just regular people like you and me. But our overall vision, and the reason we got all into Bitcoin was beyond just marketplace applications for Bitcoin. We imagined a world where smart contracts, transform everything from law to finance to, even politics, right? And so, we've always kind of had this vision for, doing more with Bitcoin. And, we embarked about a year and a half ago, into exploring, smart contracts on Bitcoin blockchain. And the more we dug into it, the more problems we uncovered. The infrastructure layer, which is primarily, we use Bitcoin D, written by, as part of Bitcoin Core, was not really adequate, or it wasn't really the infrastructure that we needed to start building smart contract libraries and things like that at the very top. So our CTO JJ, he takes full credit for BCoin, started about a year ago to rewrite what's called a full-node Bitcoin implementation. So if you think about what a full node Bitcoin implementation is, it's like Bitcoin Core. So it's parallel, if you're thinking through like the software stack for Bitcoin, it's at the very bottom. It's parallel to, Bitcoin Core, which was started by Satoshi, handed down to Gavin and now Peter or Sipa, at the Blockstream team. But, so BCoin is really an alternative to Bitcoin Core. It was written from scratch. It's not a fork of Bitcoin Core, and it's much easier to use, and it has many features that Bitcoin Core does not have implemented yet. And so some of those features include, we had SegWit way before SegWit was live on Bitcoin Core. We had BIP 150 and BIP 151, and it's my understanding that that's not part of that hasn't been implemented in Bitcoin Core yet, as well as Schnorr signatures and all these other cool features that are being developed, kind of at the protocol level. And so our vision for this is to start, now that BCoin is live on Purse, it's I believe the only other Bitcoin implementation that's live in production. And so now that that's ready, we're in full drive mode to start building, new exciting, applications and use cases, for Bitcoin. So yeah, the end user for Bitcoin today isn't necessarily just like consumers. It wasn't really built for consumers in mind. It was built for other businesses, exchanges, marketplaces, anything that's currently using Bitcoin Core plus third-party services today would find much value in using Bitcoin. A key factor here is that it's open source, so it's free. We don't charge for anybody using Bitcoin. And as you mentioned, it's written in Node.js, which gives it the flexibility of being implemented and integrated to any application in the browser or in native mobile applications.
So that is all really exciting stuff. I am going to ask just to clarify and explain for our listeners. It seems like it's an exact copy, well, not an exact copy down to the lines of code, but in terms of the function and the purpose, it is a copy of Bitcoin Core, but written, more conveniently and with some extra features. Does that, in a different language, of course. Does that seem like a fair assessment?
Yes, yeah. So it's not, the copy isn't what I would say. It's an alternate implementation of Bitcoin Core. So, if you know Bitcoin Core, Satoshi wrote the very first vision, in C++, and it was passed down from developer to developer to where it is today. It's a very difficult code base, even for the best developers in the world, to really fully wrap their heads around, right? And so there's this huge barrier, and I really think that's what's kind of keeping Bitcoin from improving faster, and really it's stalling a lot of progress. If I had to kind of guess, Satoshi wrote otherwise that, an alternative implementation, could be a menace to the network or any other things like that. But, in his early Bitcoin talk forums. But realistically, I don't think he had the expectation that, his first version of Bitcoin really would just be patched on over and over for 8 years now, right? I'm pretty sure he envisioned, a experienced developer taking a look at this, and rewriting it so that it's easier and that, development can push faster. And so, all the advanced features that Bitcoin has and Bitcoin Core has, I don't necessarily attribute to the fact that, Blockstream has some very talented developers in their team. They could have, these features were, the bits were written, some of them over a year ago. But it's very hard for even the best developers in the world to integrate this stuff into Bitcoin Core. Bitcoin is much simpler. I think it took JJ 2 days to implement BIP 150 and BIP 151. And if you look on top of our Bitcoin today, they're talking about BIP 151, and it'll be months before it's out and implemented in Bitcoin Core. And so that one example really describes the value in a simple code base that a lot of developers can understand.
Yeah, I remember this coming up a couple of times over the years of doing the podcast, where people were saying, and I think it's true, that Satoshi was not really the best coder out there. He had all the core had and probably still has all kinds of just not really bugs. It works and people have audited it day and night, but just inefficient code maybe, and just little things that aren't ideal. And I, as a developer myself, I see and deal with and even participate in that all day long. Even just today, one of our projects at work, has been running for a year or two now, but the code is just messy and it needs cleaned up, and it takes a while to do that. And it's not even necessarily a bad thing. If you need code, it's a lot of times advantageous to just crank it out no matter how clean it is, and if it works, it works. But over time, maybe it's just OCD or ADHD or who knows what, but I love just cleaning up code, making it work more efficiently and, more understandably and sensibly and all that stuff. And it sounds like that's what you got going on here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very important software. The full node Bitcoin implementation is really the backbone of this entire ecosystem, and it deserves attention from the best developers and alternate implementations. So yeah, to be clear though, there are other alternate implementations. There's Bitcoin J, written in Java, that Mike Hearn wrote. It's not being maintained, and I'm not entirely sure if anybody's using it still. There's BTCD, which we're fans of, written in Go, very clean, but I don't think one of the advantages we had at Purse is that, we're also clients of our own product, right? So we run on Bitcoin. So, just by Purse using it, it is the second most used Bitcoin implementation today.
Okay. That's kind of what I was waiting to ask about. What, besides that you guys use it, that you guys want to implement it, bring more people into it, is that your main motivation for developing this and for putting your time and effort towards it? Because you said, it's free. It's open source for people, so you're not getting paid to do it. What really is your motivation then?
So one of the narratives that was discussed, post the major Bitcoin exchange hacks, was that, we needed better infrastructure, right? And the unfortunate consequence of, Bitstamp's hack, a few years ago was that, most of the ecosystem migrated to one third party provider, that wasn't open sourced, that charged fees, and really centralized, a lot of, ecosystem risk, to it. And so if you think about, why did these exchanges migrate to that one solution? Well, it's because it was easier. It was very difficult for every single exchange around the world to go, build their own exchange from scratch, or their wallet infrastructure at least from scratch, using Bitcoin D or, Bitcoin Core. And so there wasn't a very good option, for many of them, besides, one third party provider. And we thought, well, this isn't a very Bitcoin way of building out the ecosystem. What we need instead are easy to use open source solutions that, we all contribute to, and we work together to make, the entire community stronger. And so, what I've been urging, my peers, CEOs at other, Bitcoin exchanges, is that they need to start owning their own infrastructure. They can't outsource their wallet infrastructure and still, call themselves a Bitcoin company. They need to start, getting into the weeds. And yes, we agree that Bitcoin Core is too messy and too difficult to work with. So here's an open source, solution that's much cleaner, way more advanced, ready for Lightning, and best of all, it's free. So phase one, here is, ecosystem adoption, working together, bringing other players, into Bitcoin and using Bitcoin. But longer term when we look longer term, we're really excited about more features for Bitcoin. For far too long, I feel this community has been discontent with the basic capabilities of Bitcoin. By that, I mean sending money, receiving money, and storing a balance, those basic features, if we're really thinking about making Bitcoin useful, those three features there's a million startups. I don't know, maybe millions of stretch, but there's definitely dozens, maybe hundreds of startups that do the exact same thing, whether it's PayPal or Venmo or Square Cash or, Facebook payments or any of these different things that all let you do the same basic functionality. So, the real power and the reason that we were all drawn into Bitcoin is that it's programmable money, right? You can have smart contracts. You can really transform, law and politics and finance and trade, with a very programmable language. And so, then you've got to ask yourself, well, why hasn't that happened? Why aren't we using smart contracts to do complex trades? Why hasn't the world changed? Why aren't anybody using these things? And what we've discovered is that the infrastructure really isn't ready for that. There isn't good enough infrastructure to enable these kinds of, libraries to be built on top. So our step one is ecosystem adoption, and step two is to start introducing novel, advanced, smart contract capabilities and
showing what else Bitcoin can do.
Exactly.
Or that
exactly.
the technology. Okay. Yeah, because it's like, I guess your point is like, because we have all these capabilities, not like, I guess great responsibility, or with great power comes great responsibility. Maybe not that far, but at least like we're kind of stupid for not pushing forward to do that. And I liked what you said before about you make each Bitcoin company have to build their own, and like you're kind of pushing away from like a lazy approach of not a fake, but an artificial centralization, because people
like
don't want to do their own thing.
Or Coinbase.
Yeah, and you're making businesses have to be conscious about stuff, and also what you're talking about with making like all this new stuff, kind of making the average, I don't know if it'd be the average user, but a lot of users more conscious of what else they can do with Bitcoin besides just pay with it. Because I'm definitely one of those where it's just like, I'm mostly just going to use it to lose money to Daniel in bets or stuff like that. But I try to avoid using Bitcoin for that as much as I can. But, yeah, it's like to remind people that we do have more of a bigger technology and more powerful technology than even what we have imagined right now, because there's always something new we can build on top of it.
Right. Yeah, and so I think everybody in the community is really excited about new infrastructure that's being built, and the other problem that we kind of see, and so I think our main differentiator between other infrastructure companies is that we're very conscious of the end user. We're very conscious of even the businesses that will be being built on top. I think there's a huge disconnect between the Bitcoin core team, and they're doing great work, but between the Bitcoin core team and even the exchanges that are technically their clients, right? Or their service providers, like the wallet infrastructure management or wallet companies that use their technology. They don't. To say they don't care about them, it may be an exaggeration, but they certainly aren't thinking about them as they build their technology. And so, at Purse, BCoin's been heavily optimized for applications like Purse. And, Purse is a marketplace, but basic wallet infrastructure is identical to an exchange. We have longer escrows because it takes longer to ship products and to, settle a Bitcoin USD transaction. But essentially everything else is the same. We have users with wallets that need rotating addresses and peer-to-peer exchanges and hot wallets and, that whole setup is identical to every other Bitcoin company that end users use, and we're very cognizant of that. And we have to be because we're building infrastructure really for ourselves. But today, in the future, I think that'll make Bitcoin a lot more palatable for any other businesses looking to make their infrastructure more secure and more flexible.
Do you think this offers more of an incentive for people, like for businesses that haven't kind of put their toe into Bitcoin yet? Like this is, it's going to make it more accessible to them, more likely for them to jump on top of it.
Yeah. That's an area that I've been thinking of, kind of a lot about, mainstream, technology companies that, aren't using Bitcoin today, whether that's Uber or Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or any of these things. And I think when they're looking at Bitcoin, and how it's used today, I think they decide that it's not worth it for them because PayPal exists or credit cards or Visa, OTC, all these other payments capabilities exist. So if it's going to be a matter of send, receive, and store, then they're not inclined to use Bitcoin because they look at, our user base and there certainly isn't enough for their business, for it to matter. So I think the answer to that is one, they need, these mainstream businesses want to see, things that they can't do, with a PayPal or with Square Cash or whatever. And secondly, they need easier integration. So, even if they were going to innovate in this space, for them to start with Bitcoin Core, it isn't really a, feasible option for many of these companies. So I think what they're, long term, I described step 1 and 2. So step 1 was, ecosystem adoption. Step 2 is, building new capabilities. Really step 3 for us, and what we're really thinking about, a couple of years out is to build, very easy to use solutions to integrate smart contracts and bots with all this kind of stuff directly onto Facebook, right? Or directly onto Messenger. And with, encrypted communication messages and all these different things. That's really the future that I saw when I was looking at Bitcoin, and we're excited to be a part of that.
Cool. I think I completely agree. We've talked about that kind of stuff several times over the years as well, where, especially in the U.S., I mean, there are regions where, currencies are failing or banking is limited and people, have a great use for Bitcoin right there. But especially in the U.S., I mean, it's pretty easy to just send money with PayPal and there it is. And so I agree, Bitcoin has the power to do more. We just need to make it do all that stuff. And so I'm glad that you're working on it. What have you seen in terms of anybody using it like that? I mean, I don't, probably not anyone as big as Uber or Amazon or Facebook or anything yet, but have other than Purse, has anyone stepped in and started using it and made their product better with it or anything like that yet?
Yeah, so what's surprising is when we started BCoin, since it's open source, we don't really have, and we don't have like a sales team or anything like that. We just kind of put it out there and took a look to see if anybody would start adopting it. And what we found that was interesting is that there's an exchange and that's doing a lot of innovative work down in South America, in Brazil and Argentina and places like that. They're called Bitpagos. I was talking to him at a conference here in San Francisco, about, Bitcoin. He's like, oh yeah, we've been looking at the project, we've been tracking it, and we actually started using it. I was like, oh, that's great. What are you using it for? And they've migrated all of their Bitcoin wallet infrastructure, from a third party provider and to Bitcoin. And we didn't even ask them to do that. We didn't, that wasn't even part of the message. We weren't even ready for them to start doing that. And so, they were live maybe like a week after it was live on Purse. I mean, this is all in a matter of a month. So we've got two major, Bitcoin companies on it, are using Bitcoin. But no, I mean, I was also talking to the Coinbase guys. They had a project to build a full node Bitcoin implementation. It was called Toshi, that they kind of gave up on. But they were very interested in using Bitcoin, and replacing, Bitcoin Core for their infrastructure. So, I think over the next 12 months, there'll be maybe, we're estimating about 50% of the ecosystem, will be run on Bitcoin, just because it's better than any existing alternative today. But yeah, and what that'll enable, right, are, if there's more exchanges, more Bitcoin businesses really in control of their own infrastructure, they'll start innovating and they'll start thinking about, well, we have this specific business need down in, Argentina to do, credit or something, some product that doesn't exist over there. And they can start building these solutions, with Bitcoin and innovating. Because they, now have control over their own infrastructure. So yeah, we're really excited about, both, progress from other companies like Lightning and things like that, working on the infrastructure or maybe one layer above the infrastructure. And we're also excited about, other Bitcoin companies actually becoming Bitcoin companies and actually, owning their infrastructure.
So 50% sounds like a pretty serious number. Do you ever expect that this could become the new Bitcoin Core? Is that something that you think could happen?
I certainly think it's possible. But and to be fair to Core, not all of the Bitcoin Core developers are working specifically on Bitcoin Core code, right? So I'll give you an example. Johnson Lau, a core dev, I think he's based in Hong Kong. Wrote this bit for Mast. And, I haven't had the time to really dig into it, but I mean, it seems super powerful and very exciting. And so, he's designing, things that you can do for Bitcoin, right? that necessarily isn't really tied to Bitcoin Core. I mean, by title, he's a core developer, but I mean, we could easily integrate Mass and take his contributions and implement it into Bitcoin or BTCD or any other implementation. So no, I mean, to be fair to the core team, there's a lot of people working on Bitcoin Core that aren't necessarily working in C++ or on that one implementation. They're working on ideas and designs for future applications and features. So yeah, I mean, I do think, that core team is very important. I don't see, our development team ever replacing Bitcoin Core or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I do think we'll see more ecosystem adoption for sure. It's easier to use and it'll continue to be more advanced because we're taking these, developments and implementing it directly to Bitcoin before it's on any other implementation.
You talked before about people who have taken it, or Daniel asked before about people who have taken it and have had a lot of success from it. Have you had any people who, detractors from you, or people who have just kind of, at least online, have kind of said that this isn't a good idea, said well, you can't do this, or because there always seems to be some kind of infighting once you decide to pretty much do anything and put it out there. If you had any kind of just negative feedback. Not even feedback, just people kind of just shitting on stuff.
Of course. And the biggest voice there, I love the guy to death, but Peter Todd, he's very against the idea of having an alternative implementation. I actually reached out to him before we went live, and asked him to review our consensus code. I offered to pay him to review the consensus code to get another set of eyes on it from somebody that we respect from a crypto perspective. And he wrote back basically on IRC telling me that this is not possible, that even Bitcoin Core developers can't do this. I have some terrific quotes from him, but he basically said this is impossible, that this isn't doable. This is a direct quote. There's no one in the world that can pull this off, is what he said. And I went back to Peter and they said, look, we've been validating blocks for 6 months. Sure, it's not live anywhere yet. And this is a couple months ago. I said, sure, but it's not working, and he goes back and he says, well, Coinbase tried this and they failed. He says, Coinbase can't do it. There's no chance you guys can do it. And I said, well, look, I'm telling you it works. I just want you to check it. And he basically said, oh, well, I gotta go, and left.
I just did.
And so, yeah, so I mean, look, I think he's a reasonable guy. I think, once he actually spends some time looking at the code and running a node and playing around with it, I think he'll come to his senses. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly, anytime you do anything in Bitcoin, there's definitely the negative side. But on the flip side, we've heard a lot of positive messages. There's a lot of people on even Blockstream team that are incredibly excited about Bitcoin. We've heard very positive feedback from most other people in the community. Actually, I would say everybody except for Peter Todd.
All right.
But he's a contrarian, so we need more contrarians in this space.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm glad it's working for you, and that's a good start to show them that it works, and maybe they'll come around eventually, and I'm glad other people are using it too. So I hope it all goes well. I do have 2 more follow-up questions that we do at the end of just about every interview. So we will get right into those. The first one is kind of a fun one. It's our anything goes question. I'm assuming, like I said, we've had you a couple times, I think twice over the course of the show. So we probably did this with you before, but maybe we'll get something new here. We're looking for a personal story in the Bitcoin space. Anything funny, interesting, terrible, whatever you got. Someone exciting you met. Anything goes here. Interesting story in the Bitcoin space. Anything good for us?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good stories. I think one that I always kind of come back and think about is, it was, the story with Roger Ver. So, when we were very, very small, we were like 2 people back then. And we didn't have too many users. Maybe, I think you guys were probably using Purse, but there was, the user base was very small. And one day we wake up and just see 20 retweets on some tweet. And we're like, oh my God, what's going on? And it's Roger Ver. He has a screenshot of how much he saved on, a certain item on Purse. And we were really excited, because we didn't reach out to him. He just started using Purse. And so, yeah, that was really exciting. That was an exciting moment for us, in our company. And, I reached out to him and said, hey, I'm glad you're enjoying Purse. And I told him we were raising a round, an angel round at the time. And he said, yeah, I'd be interested. And then, within a day, he sent us Bitcoin. Didn't even ask for a deck or anything. He just sent us Bitcoin and said he wanted to invest. So, look, I think there's, this divide with the blockchain or block size debate and all this, stuff going on. But I mean, I still remember that story, thinking, he really cares about the ecosystem and cares about what's good for Bitcoin. And, he does solid back then, and he continues to be super helpful. So, I'm thankful for that experience. I mean, being in this space is no shortage of different kind of people, and some are great experiences like that one, and some are more, there's all kinds of negative things that I could probably bring up too, but no, I'm really excited. What keeps me going about this ecosystem is that there's, like you guys, there's a lot of enthusiastic people that really care about this ecosystem. So that gives me faith that this Bitcoin will never die. That is an awesome story. Glad it is great to just wake up to a bunch of retweets. It doesn't happen very often, so I'll take it. But yeah, I'm glad it worked out for you. I'm glad Roger was interested right away. And I like the story about him sending Bitcoin right away. I mean, that alone is a pretty cool idea in Bitcoin, where you can just, I'm gonna invest in this thing, or I'm gonna buy an ounce of gold or something, and then 10 minutes later it's just done. That's something that's happened a time or two in Bitcoin, and that's really cool too. So awesome. Well, thanks for the story. And like I said, we have one more for you. I think it'll be a pretty easy one. What should people be doing right now when they finish the show? Where can they find you? Should they follow you? Should they email you? Should they develop for you on BCoin? What's next for our listeners? Yeah, so if you have Bitcoin and shop on Amazon, I urge you to go sign up on Purse.io, or better yet, I believe you guys have an affiliate code somewhere on your page. Yeah. It's right. You, me, and btc.com/purse. Nice and easy. Awesome. So you should go there and save on your next Amazon purchase. And if you're a developer, you can go to GitHub and look up BCoin and check it out. And let us know what you think. Perfect. Or use it for your next project. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a developer and I would love to get involved sometime. So we'll see if I can find the time. This has been Andrew Lee from Purse.io and the creators of BCoin, the JavaScript library for Bitcoin, a new full node program. So, Andrew Lee, thanks for joining us today, and I can't wait to have you back again. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew.
Hey guys, I'm Tim Baker.
I'm Daniel Brown.
And I'm Sean Stewart. And we are the You, Me, and BTC podcast.
Cryptocurrency decrypted.
Us three chumps love to talk too much, and for some reason other people seem to enjoy it.
That's why we started You, Me, and BTC, which is your Bitcoin and Liberty podcast.
Find our show at youmeandbtc.com every Thursday.
We also post Bitcoin-related reviews, opinion articles, and much more. Subscribe, like, and follow at youmeandbtc.com. All right, guys, we are not going to be too much longer, just another minute or two, but we are back. We just wanted to say thanks again for listening. As I always say, we could never do this without our listeners, and our listener base is growing every week. It still surprises me all the time. So anyway, thanks for being here with myself and Tim and Andrew Lee from Purse.io. Yeah, we did say in there, you, me, and btc.com/purse if you want to check it out. We cover it all the time on the show, and countless people have said it's Bitcoin's killer app. So if you're not involved yet, it's nice and simple. You just buy stuff on other people buy stuff for you on Amazon, and you give them Bitcoin, and you get a discount. So that's what it is. Nice and simple, and you save money. I think they keep track of your total savings, and I think I'm up to like $800 or something. It's pretty crazy. So there's that if you want to check it out. And anything else, Tim, that we got to mention?
No. Thank you again, Andrew, for coming on. Thanks again, Purse. Yeah, they're sticking by us. We've been with them since the beginning. We're trying to ride their coattails now.
It's Everybody true. Since before they were even... Yeah, before they were even called Purse.io, we beta tested them before they even had a real name. So yeah, anyway, check them out. The music you're listening to right now, as we do at the end of every show, is from Jon Stewart, who is still not with us. I think he might have died or something. I don't know. I got to go check the obituaries.
He died on his honeymoon or something.
Actually, no. It's forever. I've been telling people that his honeymoon was... like now, but apparently they're putting it off till December, so it's not even a thing yet. He just decided to quit out on us anyway, so yeah. Anyway,
he was like, no, Trump won, we're going.
Oh yeah. Yeah, his music is playing now, and we will catch you next week. Thanks everyone. Peace.
Bye-bye.